Guys, we've had some things in the state that have happened here recently that are very pro-Second Amendment, and things that I'm very excited about, constitutional carry, namely. I really thought we were going to get a sanctuary city bill passed because we have overwhelming support, supposedly. We had overwhelming support, and the conservatives outnumbered the liberals, and it looked like a sure thing. The committees were all set up to pass these things, and they would go onto the floor for vote, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. It all seemed like it was really going to happen. Constitutional carry actually is. It's actually headed to the governor's desk. He says he's going to veto it. Yeah, we expect that out of John Bel Edwards. However, the sanctuary city-esque, it's kind of like that type of bill, HB 118 in the state of Louisiana was set to go forward, and all it did was, I didn't think it did enough, to be quite honest with you, but all it did was it restricted state dollars, Louisiana money, taxpayer dollars, Louisiana State Police, any parish officials, city officials, municipal officials, anything like that. It restricted any of those dollars to be spent towards enforcing any unconstitutional gun laws going forward. In other words, all the unconstitutional gun laws that had been passed prior to now, those monies could still be used to support those things. It was just anything passed from here forward, which doesn't make sense to me. If it's unconstitutional, it's unconstitutional. We shouldn't be assisting with any kind of aid in implementing or enforcing any laws that were unconstitutional. But nevertheless, that's a whole different story. And maybe it's good that this one's not going to pass. But I was a little bit upset about the fact that when this thing went to committee, 3 Democrats voted against it, which it would not have. If just those 3 Democrats, it was a 4-7 vote. A 4-3 vote. If just those 3 Democrats had voted against it, then it would have still passed because there were 4 conservatives, or Republicans, I should say. Let me not confuse those two. Well, Ronnie Johns from my area, who is a Republican, was the only Republican to vote with the Democrats, and his vote was the deciding vote that caused it to fail. So it was a 3-4 loss, with the 4 no votes being 3 Democrats and Republican Ronnie Johns. This sparked an outrage in the community. I had attorneys from a national standpoint contacting me, asking me, hey, we see this guy's in your area. What's the deal? I mean, not like it's my fault, but I want to explain to you a little bit of a dialogue that's going on between me and Senator Ronnie Johns right now. And I know Mr. Johns through prior Second Amendment stuff, and he has been a supporter of the Second Amendment prior to now. I want to say that because he's never proven himself to be anti-gun or anti-Second Amendment. I wrote him a very quick letter. All I asked him was, Mr. Johns, could you please explain to me in as much detail as you can why you felt the need to partner with 3 Democrats voting against HB 118. I am being slammed with emails from my viewers on this, and I personally had higher expectations of you voting the way your constituents felt you should. Respectfully, Paul Glasgow. Mr. Johns' office responded to me with a canned reply. I know it's a canned reply because I've seen other people with identical word for word on Facebook and on the internet, and I expect a canned response. I'm no more special than anybody else, so I expected this type of response from him. At least he put my name in there. He says, Paul, please allow me the opportunity to explain my no vote on HB 118. After consulting a number of very qualified attorneys, some in the Capitol and some in private practice, the unanimous legal advice given to me is that this bill is absolutely unconstitutional. State law simply cannot circumvent federal law. If we could, then there are many situations that the Louisiana legislature would have done. There are many situations that the Louisiana legislature would have done this. Okay, that seems to be worded wrong. Some have argued that we should pass a law and then let the courts decide if it's constitutional. That has been done in many cases, and the courts have always ruled in favor of federal law. The cost to defend such a lawsuit with outside legal counsel will cost the state millions of dollars, which is your tax dollars. As a member of Finance Committee, I cannot support wasting money on something that we already know is unconstitutional. On a different note, the most important gun rights bills of this session are constitutional carry bills. I have voted for Senator Morris's bill on the Senate floor this week and also for a House version in Judiciary B Committee this week. Some Second Amendment advocates have questioned why I was absent for the initial vote on Senator Morris's bill. I was having emergency gallbladder surgery that very day back in Lake Charles. I hope all would understand that emergency surgery is a valid reason to miss a vote. And yes, I absolutely do. The critical votes I cast this week are proof of my support of Second Amendment rights. I find it disappointing that nothing has been said of my support of these bills. When I was elected, I took an oath of office to support the constitutions of both our state and country. That's exactly what I did this week. Senator Ronnie Johns. That is an unacceptable response. It is an incorrect response. Other than the information about the gallbladder, pretty much everything that he stated was either incorrect or simply an opinion that does not reinforce the fact that he may in fact be a Second Amendment supporter, which I do think that he does support the Second Amendment. That's why I think he's either been given bad advice or he has another reason why he voted against this, because again, he has proven to be a Second Amendment supporter. So I responded to him, and I have not gotten a response to this letter back yet. Here's my response to his response. Mr. Johns, I appreciate your canned response. First of all, I hope your recovery has been smooth for your gallbladder surgery. Best of luck there. In your explanation for siding with the 3 Democrats on the committee and voting against HB 118, you mentioned that you consulted with attorneys and the unanimous legal advice they gave you was that the bill was absolutely unconstitutional. I'm kind of surprised with that coming from attorneys. Maybe they're new attorneys or real-life versions of my cousin Vinny, because they're certainly not constitutional attorneys. The federal government only has those powers expressly enumerated in the Constitution. All other powers not expressly delegated or retained by the state of the people, or the people. This is clearly expressed in the 10th Amendment. The Second Amendment is clear in its recognizing of the people to keep and bear arms. This means that if the federal government were to pass a law violating the Constitution, like banning AR-15s, then that law would be unconstitutional and would actually be the responsibility of the state of Louisiana, with or without HB 118, to ignore the unconstitutional law. Also, HB 118 does not entitle Louisiana to stop the federal government from enforcing any gun laws it passes. It only keeps Louisiana from helping them enforce any unconstitutional laws. The Supremacy Clause essentially says that where the national government has the express power to do something, national law will trump state law if there is a conflict between the two. But nowhere does it say that a state is required to help the national government enforce its laws. It sounds like the attorneys you got advice from are either simply anti-Second Amendment, ignorant on the Constitution, or just lazy. But they're definitely wrong. Can you tell me what they claim is absolutely unconstitutional about HB 118? I'm sure you asked them. I would appreciate the feedback because the voters and all the attorneys I consulted disagree with your attorneys' flippant opinions. Please understand that no one has ignored your pro-Second Amendment support on other bills. I never implied that. It's just that when you vote against any legitimate pro-Second Amendment bill that would protect the Second Amendment rights of Louisianans, you can't expect law-abiding gun owners to fawn all over you for supporting a couple of other bills. If you voted for 2 pro-life bills and then vote against a pro-life bill, it's doubtful you'll be heralded as a pro-life champion of the state. I look forward to your response and for any improved support of the Second Amendment. Respectfully, Paul Glasgow. Guys, this is important to me. We hear about the term rhinos all the time. Republicans in name only is what that stands for. And I don't want to think that Mr. Johns is one of those. Again, Mr. Johns, every time I've called on him in the past, I felt like he had support. I always got a response back from him. He would call me from his cell phone to my cell phone and give me a pretty quick response. So I've got to say that in the past, this is shocking to me because Mr. Johns has always acted with the utmost respect of the Second Amendment. I have to think that his gallbladder surgery may have kept him kind of out of the loop, if you will. And being out of the loop and voting on important issues might be the issue right here. It may be that since he has been out of the loop, that he's been consulting other people who, again, either don't support the Second Amendment or just guessing because they're attorneys. They think they have the answer instead of actually looking and investigating and doing a little research to see if they're right or wrong. It sounds like maybe he's leaned on other people, possibly, I'm just supposing here, that he may have leaned on other people that may be wrong and maybe guided him in the wrong way. Not trying to make excuses for Mr. Johns, but again, I have to give credibility to him for what he's done in the past. And I don't feel like he's exhibited any anti-gun things in the past. I would encourage all of you to email Mr. Johns. I will post his email address and you can call his office Get your own answers also. You'll probably get a canned response like I did. Doesn't mean you can't reply and expect a custom response in response to that, because I think we're owed the answers. If he consulted with attorneys and they told him this was unconstitutional, you got to tell me why. If they're attorneys, you can't just say something that's an opinion. You have to back that up with whatever research you've done. I expect to see the research, and when I get that research, I'll definitely pass that on to you guys.